Good morning and welcome. My name is tlewis, the Director of Membership and Engagement here at Unity Temple Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are delighted that you are with us this morning and hope you'll come again. There are many things happening as the new program year begins, and we invite you to participate. Whether you are new to our community or have been attending for some time, whether you're tuning in locally or from afar, contact me to learn more about how to connect. My email address is tlewis@unitytemple.org and will be posted several times throughout the service in the chat. I look forward to hearing from you and hope to see you at coffee hour.
Good morning. My name is Aisha Ellis, and I am from your Unity Temple Board of Trustees. We'd like to welcome you today to our service. If you are new to Unity Temple, I suggest that you check out unitytemple.org, where you can find out more about our values, who we are, and what we do, and other fun ways to participate. I invite you to join us after the service in a virtual fellowship right on Zoom, so we'll give you more information about that. There's lots of great things going on at Unity Temple as we begin our new year. I invite you to join us in things like meditation, in our softball games, and lots of other fun things that you'll find out in our calendar. I hope that you have a wonderful day.
We invite you to light your chalice along with us. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are the Church of the open minds, loving hearts, helping hands. We take care of the earth and each other.
Breathe deeply and center down. Bring all of who you are to this worship gathering. On this Labor Day weekend, we reflect on essential work and how the work of love calls us to recognize the worth and dignity of all workers, whether working for a paycheck or not. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. May we open our hearts, our minds, our souls as we gather for worship on this glorious day.
Please join us in the words of our covenant.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus to be covenant with each other and with God.
Please join me in singing number 20 in your gray hymnal, Be Thou My Vision. Be thou my vision, O God of my heart, not be all else to me save that thou art. Thou my best thought by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, God. Thou my soul's shelter, thou my high tower. Raise thou me heavenward, O power of my power. Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance now and always. Thou and thou only first in my heart. Sovereign of heaven, my treasure thou art.
morning. My name is Mandy Heisinga, and I am your ministerial intern here at Unity Temple for the next 2 years. I live in Oak Park with my family, which includes my 2 children, Luna, who is 12 and in 7th grade, and Lucian, who is 11 and in 6th grade. We also have 2 cats, Callie and Tuck, who thinks he's a dog. Our family loves to hike and spend time with each other in the outdoors, and we love to talk about Unitarian Universalism a lot. Today in our service, Reverend Allen will be talking about essential workers. I'm sure you've heard that phrase a lot in the past couple of months. Essential workers are people whose jobs are super important but often overlooked. Recently, you've probably heard that phrase, essential workers, in regards to nurses and doctors. They've been really important for us during this pandemic, making sure that we are safe, and it's super important that we also help keep them safe with the right materials that they need to do their jobs. Maybe your street was like our street. We had a clap out in the evenings in March, April, and May to applaud our essential workers in the neighborhood. Today, though, I want to talk about another kind of essential worker. This is a story that my daughter Luna shared and gave me permission to share with you all, because I think it's a really important story that highlights essential workers. When Luna was in 1st grade, she had gone to school like a normal school day. And about halfway through the morning, she started feeling ill. So she asked to go to the nurse's office. And on the way there, she felt really ill and ended up being sick all over the floor of the school hallway. She was taken to the office, and I was called to pick her up from school. When I picked her up and we got in the car, Luna was really upset. I had assumed that she was upset because she was sick and because she had gotten sick all over the school floor. But that wasn't what Luna was really upset about. She was upset because the school janitor had to clean up her sickness off of the floor. The janitor had a really hard job in that moment. Cleaning up sick on the floor is definitely not a fun job, but it is a super important job. It's a job that means that other kids won't get sick and that the school will be clean. Luna realized that she had never thought about how important being a janitor was. In fact, she had realized that she hadn't even thought about what a janitor did or why it was important. Our first Unitarian Universalist principle says that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. If we really believe this, if we take this seriously, that means that essential workers like janitors or garbage collectors, nurses, doctors, teachers, that they're important and that their job is important and that we have to treat them with respect because they are human beings like we all are and because their jobs are important. So I have a challenge for you. A challenge for you to live boldly into your Unitarian Universalist value. The next time you go to school and see your school janitor, or maybe your teacher, or maybe the nurse or your doctor, say thank you. Being thankful is a small way to let somebody know that they are respected and cared for. It is a gift that you can give someone every single day. There's one more thing that I want to share with you before I leave you today. One of the reasons that I want to be a Unitarian Universalist minister is that I believe that our Unitarian Universalist congregations can be models of how to make the world a better place. What we do in our churches matters, and that definitely includes how we treat people. As I spend time with you over the next 2 years, I would love for you to help me come up with ways that we can make Unity Temple an even better example of how to treat people, to do justice, and to make the world more kind.
Good morning. I'm Judy Gallardo Grace, and I'm one of your pastoral associates. Each week, we hold a space for holding each other in our hearts and for the prayers of the people. Who are you holding in your heart at this time? What prayers are on your heart? You may share them in the live chat if you wish. John Freeland shares that 3 weeks ago, both his parents, in their mid-80s, contracted COVID-19. Both are doing well, and fortunately, their caregivers have recovered also and have been able to care for them in their home. Karen Peace asks for your love, support, and prayers and healing energy as she embarks on a chemotherapy regimen to attack the cancer that has recurred for the second time. Let us all hold her in our hearts during her journey. Katie Dozier shares that her co-worker and fellow union brother Shane lost his brother Seth 2 weeks ago to an overdose. In the span of 5 days, their staff came together to donate $700 to Seneca Nation Health System, Seneca Strong program, which helps individuals with substance abuse and behavioral and mental health needs in honor of Shane's brother Seth. Katie says, I have always known and believed that unions go much deeper than workers coming together to have a voice on the job and living wage and healthy benefits. And this act of kindness and generosity demonstrates that. Katie hopes that other people across our state, country, and the globe also feel this type of kindness and generosity in their lives, especially now. During the following week, between August 27th and September 3rd, the following people were killed. Chauncey Ali Jr., 27, Brandon Brown, 26, Jason Carson, 32, Sebastian Cisnero, 16, Darius Coleman, 29, Kyra Gray, 35, Greg Gutley, 26, Quande Jenks, 39, Chinque Lee, 28, Anthony Lewis, 54, Michael McDaniels, 39, Quinton Moore, 27, Sammy Sanders, 61, Amando Ship, 47, Miguel Vega, 26, Doran Wallace, 35, Devin Walsh, 31, Jamil Williamson, 21. May we keep the families and officers touched by violence in our prayers. May we also pray for the perpetrators and the impact the violence will have on their lives as well. If you have something you would like shared at this time, please contact one of our ministers or one of our pastoral associates. We can be reached at pastoralassociates@unitytemple.org. We are always available to you.
Spirit of life and love, we give thanks for the gift of this day, for the opportunity to breathe in all that life offers us, the jumble of joy and sorrow and challenge and opportunity that make up our experiences. May we have hope and faith to help us keep going. We hold in our hearts those who are lonely or sick or sad or overwhelmed or who have experienced loss because of COVID-19 and its many repercussions throughout our lives. May we continue to make choices that keep all of us safe. We send strength and courage to all our essential workers who care for us in a myriad of ways, whose hands and hearts keep us going. May we receive and give those gifts gratefully. We persist in our efforts to shape the world toward a more just place. May we know that even the smallest actions we make in the name of equity and inclusion all matter. On this Labor Day weekend, we are especially mindful of the work that everyone does. We celebrate everyone's contributions, and we think of all the protests and demonstrations and lobbying of the labor movement that helped bring us the working conditions we know today. May we continue to labor towards what is fair and just and humane for all those who work. On this day and all our days, may we know we are surrounded by care and love. Amen. Blessed be.
Hi, I'm Reverend C.J. Hawking, Executive Director of Arise Chicago. Arise Chicago is a 29-year-old organization founded by the faith community to advance workers' rights. The last 6 months of the global pandemic have revealed a lot about workers who are truly essential to making our lives work. From farm workers to delivery workers, nursing home workers, elder care workers, food production workers, the list goes on. The veil has been lifted as now we see what it takes to keep the rest of us fed and healthy and content. The veil has been lifted as now we see the harsh realities that many essential workers faced for years. Wages below poverty line, no health care, no benefits like paid sick days or paid vacation days, and harsh safety conditions even before the pandemic. The veil has been lifted for all to see the stark economic and healthcare inequities endured by Black and Latino workers, as the deaths in these communities are far outpacing the deaths in white communities. As people of faith, we are called to address these stark realities and be a part of the change we want to see. Many of us at Arise Chicago are being asked during the pandemic, what is happening to workers and how is Arise responding? Given that Arise Chicago's average weekly phone calls went from 25 a week to now 160, we have our finger on the pulse of what is happening. And there are 3 major trends I want to share with you. Most of our low-wage immigrant worker members were already in unsafe conditions, and COVID has made it worse. Often they hear about their coworkers getting sick or dying many days after the coworker has left. Employers are not providing proper PPE. Workers are not 6 feet apart or aren't required to wear masks. And most of all, when workers encounter someone who is COVID positive, they are not being paid for 2 weeks off, as per the CDC guidelines so that they can quarantine. In fact, that's why Arise is advocating for 2 weeks off with pay in the city of Chicago for workers whose workplaces are 50 or under because they've been left out of the CARES Act. The second trend that we're seeing is that essential low-wage workers are putting their lives in danger to support their families. With no safety net, no savings, they feel obliged to keep working. And therefore, Arise has launched a massive education campaign, creating homespun videos in English, Spanish, and Polish. And so far, we've had over 400,000 views of our videos on how to stay safe on the job. We've also created a safe return to work guide that's been picked up nationally. And we now have weekly trainings that is getting 10,000 views per week on Facebook. Be sure and link your Facebook page to ours. The third trend that we are seeing is that the workplace is indeed the epicenter, but it's not being treated like one during the pandemic. Arise has been on Zoom calls with elected leaders at the federal, state, county, and city levels to enforce the reality that the workplace is the epicenter. Arise also believes that workers need to be able to freely report and enforce safety measures in cooperation with the public health departments like they're doing in Los Angeles. Friends, all religious traditions believe in the dignity of workers and the dignity of work. And Arise Chicago is saying in this moment, essential workers deserve essential dignity. Indeed, the veil has been lifted. And so now is the time, as the psalmist says, for righteousness and peace to kiss. Thank you to all of you who have been supporting the work of Arise Chicago. Thank you to your congregation for giving us this moment. Thank you for being witnesses to the injustice and lifting your prophetic voices so that social change can happen. Thank you for your partnership. Blessings of peace and health to all of you. Thank you.
Do you dream of a home you never had? An innocence that you cannot get back? The pain is real, you can't erase it. Sooner or later, you have to face it down. You have to face it down. You are loved. Do you keep your thoughts inside your head? Do you regret the things you never said? You have a voice, you have to use it. You have a choice, don't let them shut you down. Don't let them shut you down. You are loved. You are loved. Do you feel the ache inside your soul? You know you'll never make it on your own. Sorrow is too great for you to hold it. You're gonna break. Why don't you lay it down? Freedom comes in letting go. Open up the window to your heart. Freedom comes in letting go. Open up
Last Sunday afternoon, I drove up to Kenosha to attend an interfaith prayer vigil. This was so I could stand in solidarity with colleagues and fellow clergy who are serving a deeply hurting community. I was especially moved by Sister Erica Jordan, a sister of the Sinsinawa Dominicans. She said that she could quote Catholic social teaching, but instead wanted to share words from Valerie Kaur, a Sikh civil rights activist and faith leader. Words from Kaur's recent and first book, See No Stranger. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving. A choice we make over and over again. Love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. And this labor engages all our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. I agree with Kaur. Seeing no stranger begins in wonder. It is to look upon the face of anyone and choose to say, you are a part of me that I do not yet know. Wonder is the wellspring of love. Who we wonder about depends whose stories we hear and whose joy and pain we share. Those we grieve with, those we sit with and weep with, are ultimately those we organize with and advocate for. When a critical mass of people come together to wonder about one another, grieve with one another, and fight with and for one another, we begin to build the solidarity needed for collective liberation and transformation. A solidarity rooted in love. Sister Erica Jordan helped me recognize that Valerie Kaur provides a compelling roadmap to remaking our world. She shared Kaur's words at the Kenosha prayer vigil to attend the wounds of racism that have erupted in violence and rioting in their city. But these teachings also attend to the wounds of classism and the wounds that come with failing to recognize the dignity of others, including workers. This year, Labor Day is different from other years. This year, it's a time to open our hearts to all those who cannot work because of the pandemic. Those in the gig economy, those whose positions have been abolished, and the millions who have been laid off and simply cannot find work now. Labor Day is also an ideal time to recognize a vast swath of our population, often overlooked. People who work for an hourly wage, often without health care, and yet show up day after day to do what society deems as essential work. The phrase essential workers first brings to my mind healthcare workers, from medical personnel to administrators to the janitorial staffs that have made it possible for all of us to be treated should we need treatment for any ailment, including the coronavirus. People who day after day return to work despite the very real risks. So many workers in hospitals and in care centers have contracted COVID-19. They have literally put their own health and the health of their families on the line. But as we came to realize at a wider society, they are essential workers and are not the only essential workers. Ever since March, when I needed something from the grocery store, or the hardware store, or the pharmacy, or the post office, I found myself especially grateful for the people behind the counter and those who made it possible for my needs to be met. Like so many of you, I suddenly became more aware of many people working in my midst, and I began to wonder more about the people I encountered. At times, I've had conversations with some of these people. At CVS, where I said, after being rung up, "I'm grateful for your service, especially during this pandemic." The young woman said, "You know, in some ways it's easier to come to work now." And I looked up in surprise. She said, "More people treat me nicely. It's as if they recognize that I'm a person, just like them." I wish that the cashier could see my smile behind my mask, but I could see the smile in her eyes when I said, "Well, for me, you do really make a difference." One of the cashiers at Pete's Market wears a large button with the image of a smiling young man. I asked who it was, and she said, "It's my son." And I said, "You're wearing this to remember him?" She said, "Yes, I lost him 4 years ago." I paused and looked at her and said, I'm sorry for your dear loss, and I'm glad you're keeping your son's memory alive. I'm touched by your care." This was before the cashiers at Pete's were given masks to wear, and I could see a mix of emotions in her face as she looked quietly into my eyes. And very quietly, she said, "Thank you." I think she was saying, "Thank you for seeing me." For me, Labor Day is about recognizing the worth and dignity of all people, and all people who work hard to support their families. There are many essential workers who most of us never encounter. People who work in factories, on farms, in food processing plants, who don't have the same protections as unionized professions. Day after day, such people go to work where they are vulnerable and they fulfill their essential functions. As Reverend C.J. Hawking shared earlier, the pandemic has lifted the veil that hid that reality, that many workers don't get sick leave. Many workers face unsafe work environments, and the number of people sharing their stories and their concerns and complaints have skyrocketed from 25 a week to 160 a week. I think it's a moral imperative to maintain this growing collective awareness of the many workers who keep our society going. For many of these workers hardly make a living wage. Our society doesn't fully recognize the hard-working people who are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Think about it. If you're making $15 an hour for a 40-hour week, that's $600 pre-tax. That's the amount people have been receiving in unemployment benefits from the federal government. And too many of these people making $15 an hour or less work in places where they can't get sick leave. For them, their labor is a form of love to provide for their families, to create a life. And for them, there's no option but to work and be subject, and sometimes to be subject to really challenging conditions, unless there are others to listen to their stories. And you know, it doesn't have to be this way. Last January, Krista Tippett interviewed the American labor activist Ajin Poo right here at Unity Temple. It was a remarkable evening, learning about the National Domestic Workers Alliance that she founded, which brings together domestic workers and people that employ them, who recognize just how vulnerable these workers can be. Ajin Poo shared that she got into this work because of her volunteer work in college for a hotline for domestic abuse. She said, "I was so struck by how many of the calls were not actually about the abuse, but about surviving in everyday life, working incredibly hard and still not being able to pay the bills. That there was this relationship between the inability of working women to earn enough to make ends meet and their ability to live free from violence. It was so profound." She says, "I remember thinking, how could it be that people who have to work and are working so incredibly hard still can't take care of themselves and their families? And how do we change that?" It was partnering with Arise Chicago several years ago that I learned that domestic workers have long been excluded from basic rights and benefits that other workers receive. It's a centuries-old legacy that people working in other people's homes have been excluded from basic labor protections. And Arise Chicago partnered with the National Domestic Workers Alliance and other organizations to win many of the same protections for in the state of Illinois in the 2016 domestic worker legislation. This was done by sharing the stories of real people with real challenges. The work of remaking the world comes through the love of sweet labor. For many of us who have professional careers, we are urged to engage in self-care, to take vacation, to take sick days, and for some of us, even mental health days. It is truly ironic that the professional carers, who soon may make up the largest workforce as aging baby boomers need more services, that these professional carers struggle to take care of themselves and their families when doing this such significant and important work. This Labor Day weekend, I encourage you to listen for the stories of people you encounter, whether in person or through the written word or on a screen. Listen to the stories of those you want to understand more openly, more honestly, more genuinely. Seek them out and share your own story. Attending the wounds of classism and racism and all the other isms is not only moral, but strategic. It is the labor of remaking the world. It is the labor of actively recognizing the worth and dignity of every person. And what's more essential work? And what more essential work are we all called to participate in? Love is a form of sweet labor, a choice we make over and over again. That was the message that stuck with me as I returned to Oak Park from Kenosha. On this Labor Day weekend, may we all experience deep gratitude for those who do essential work that makes our society run. And may we recognize that whether we are working for a paycheck or not, we all participate in the essential work of moving through the world with love. Now that I'm reading See No Stranger, I'm struck by Valerie Kaur's assertion that love, revolutionary love, is the choice to enter into labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves, in order to transform the world around us. May we share our stories, listen for others, and recognize the worth and dignity of all, remaking the world into the beloved community we seek. Blessed be. Amen. Each week we give away our offering. This week our offering goes to Arise Chicago, bringing together the faith community to support workers throughout the Chicago area. You may give through their website, arisechicago.org, send a check to Unity Temple with Arise in the memo line, or follow the directions on the QR code to give by texting. May what you give bring you joy.
Our next hymn is I Am Willing by Holly Near. I am open and I am willing. To be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is panic in the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though burns our eyes. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. Give me an ocean to hold my tears.
Our benediction comes from Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. May you go forth with renewed strength. Blessed be. Amen.
May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light that's within you